Welcome to our Weather Impact Report, where we take a look at the top weather stories here in Georgia and around the nation. I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss. Pop-up storms were the main weather story this week. However, we had quite a wild week of things falling from the sky. First up, tornadoes. This video is after a tornado tore through the small town of Clark Mills in upstate New York, killing 3 people. Authorities say it killed a 6-year-old, twin sisters while they slept, and about 2 blocks away, a tree crushed the back end of a home, killing a 50-year-old woman. The National Weather Service has confirmed it was an EF1 tornado with wind speeds of 95 miles per hour. More than 1,000 people were without power for days in Minnesota after storms moved through that area last Saturday. The storms flattened thousands of trees and damaged structures. Emergency management in the area sent an update to residents Monday, sharing information about the ongoing recovery. Water pooling on top of a store roof in Madison, Wisconsin caused a major collapse on Monday. Take a look at this video taken by someone inside of the store. According to the fire department, pooling water on the store's roof and plugged drains caused the disaster. When firefighters arrived, water was pouring into the store and alarms were going off. Customers were forced to evacuate and employees were told to go to a specific area so that everyone could be accounted for. According to the fire department, engineers discovered that debris was blocking the roof drains, and that's where the collapse occurred. Well, a terrifying moment on Lake Murray in South Carolina. 12 people were hospitalized after being struck by lightning at a popular swimming spot. Emergency crews say a bolt hit the water and energized a metal cable with buoys, marking a swim zone. Some of the victims were holding on to the cable. Others were nearby in the water. Officials assessed 20 people in total. 12 were taken to the hospital. The injuries are not believed to be life-threatening, but the full extent is still unclear. Visitors at the lake say they were shaken by what happened.
It's really shocking because I don't hear of much incidents here in Lake Murray. It's normally really peaceful, like very family orientated. So the fact that the accident happened really did shock me a lot.
So I hope everybody pulls through and everybody makes it and they're all good and come back healthy.
And with dangerous lightning like this making headlines, it's a good time to talk about lightning safety awareness. Researchers in Georgia are trying to better understand storm structure by studying lightning. Meteorologist Melissa Nord shares how this may help keep you safer.
He's the world record holder for measuring the longest continuous lightning strike ever.
433 miles from start to end.
Michael Peterson is an applied physicist with the Severe Storms Research Center at the Georgia Tech Research Institute and spends every day examining the complexities of lightning.
I appreciate the physics of these thunderstorms and what's happening.
Over a decade ago, they installed a network of lightning sensors across North Georgia.
Lightning is comprised of a bunch of tiny little sparks, and then each spark will emit a radio wave. And if we can record accurately the time at which all those radio waves reach all of our stations distributed all around Atlanta, then we can basically work out exactly where in the cloud that lightning strike came from.
That data becomes more valuable to meteorologists tracking the storms.
Lightning detection is very good at telling us where the lightning hazards are, but it also gives information about where the severe weather hazards are.
Most lightning stays within the clouds.
Only about 20%, 1 in 5 flashes actually strikes the ground.
And when it does, it is dangerous and sometimes deadly, especially when it travels through an area that isn't experiencing very heavy rain or strong winds.
Bolts from their grave, it can travel through otherwise unimpressive rainfall. If you don't anticipate the hazard, it's really hard to take action.
Peterson hopes the team's research will help us better understand why.
By collecting those over time, we can actually piece together, kind of like playing connect the dots, the overall structure of the lightning flash from its start all the way through its finish.
On average, 34 people lose their lives to lightning each year. That number is shrinking in recent years thanks to public outreach like the slogan, "When thunder roars, go indoors." Over 90% of lightning victims survive, but can't be left with long-lasting health impacts. Georgia traded the strong storms for heat. At least that's the way that it started out this week. Our weather team issued a weather impact alert Tuesday and Wednesday because they turned out to be the hottest days of the year so far. Some people's AC worked overtime this week. This was just the first full week of summer, so there's plenty of heat that's on the way. So how can you save on that bill? Rapley's Renovations does everything home repair, including HVAC services. They recommend that you start by blocking out direct sunlight using blinds, curtains, or shades, and use ovens, dry dryers and dishwashers in the early morning or evening hours when it's cooler. Most power companies want you to set your thermostat to 78 degrees when you're home. Experts say that if you turn your AC on and you don't hear the fan running, then there might be a bigger problem.
If you're turning on your thermostat from auto to on and you're cutting it down, this fan should kick on. So if your fan doesn't kick on, then you automatically know that there's a problem. But the main things that we want to look at when we're doing a tune-up is to make sure that there is nothing obstructive in the way of the fan. Make sure there's no debris around the HVAC unit up to like 3 feet is good, so that there's no weeds and stuff working their way, getting mingled up and tangled into the exterior unit.
Heat is the #1 weather-related killer in the United States. And some people in DeKalb County had a little help trying to stay cool this first week of summer. Frontline Response and a Home for Everyone DeKalb opened the 2025 Cooling Center. Organizers say it's part of their effort to help people dealing with homelessness and other tough situations during the hot months. And it's not just a place to cool off. They're also offering free meals, hygiene kits, and clothing.
Joy in my heart to see them come in, especially have resources. And a lot of them, they're not just going to come in and cool. We're actually going to do some work with them. So they'll have those case management resources and resources in the communities with other places, and so when they leave, they also can help them out.
The heat impacted the entire East Coast. Many in North St. Louis continue to live without air conditioning following devastating damage left behind by the EF3 tornado that touched down last month. St. Anne Police Chief Aaron Jimenez said a woman died in her home due to the dangerous heat after having no water or air conditioning for at least 3 days. The long periods of nearly triple-digit temperatures can also lead to heat illnesses. Annie Crawl has more.
I lost everything in 5 minutes.
Like many, Darnell Forrest had his life turned upside down on May 16th.
This whole front of my house was gone from one side to the other. Door, windows, everything was laying out here in the yard.
Sitting outside what's left of his house on Cottage Avenue, he's checked on by friends who know him in the Ville neighborhood by another name.
They called me Hard Times.
Getting through some hard times, the popular auto mechanic works in his backyard even on summer days that reach up to 95.
Taking minutes breaks as I can. I still work on cars, so I work 5 minutes sometimes. I take a half an hour break.
The 75-year-old is trying to earn some extra money to pay for repairs, telling us he's lived in this house with no air conditioning, only a series of fans since the storm, saying he had nowhere else to stay.
Insulation from everywhere blew into the air conditioning. I got some of it out, so it might be where the air conditioning ain't cooling enough from the outside. I don't know.
It's a potentially dangerous spot to be in, Dr. Alexander Garza, Chief Community Health Officer for SSM Health, says.
Typically, you can cool off at night, and then you can get up the next day and you're able to function okay. But if you're not having that period of time where the body's allowed to recover, to cool down, then you sort of get this accumulating effect on the body.
Garza is also the city's health advisor, giving medical expertise at the city, state, and even federal level the last few weeks in response to the tornado. Extreme heat is one of their biggest concerns.
You also have this effect, what's called a heat island in an urban dense area, which is you have a lot of concrete and asphalt, which absorbs a lot of heat and then releases it at night. And so it's difficult to cool down at night.
As temperatures heat up, so do asphalt surfaces. Lisa Crane shows us how the extreme heat affects the roads you drive on.
This is tough, hot work, but warm weather is the ideal time to pour asphalt. The heat and other weather conditions can also cause it to break down.
Asphalt's laid at over 300 degrees, so it's really a heat-ready material, but just years of heating and cooling and water cracking can obviously cause some issues.
Nicholson says all the heating, freezing, and moisture over time can cause problems. You can see it on the roads in Jefferson County and around the state.
So you'll see what we call alligator cracking, which is just kind of your sideways spider web type cracking on the top of the surface, or a buckling, as you may see when heavy loads are pushing against that asphalt, making turn movements.
There's no way to prevent the effects of the weather on roadways, so the best advice is to keep an eye out for it.
If you do see a piece of pavement that may not look in great condition, just be aware and be safe. I would err on the side of caution. And if you see something doesn't look right, if you see some cracking or some potholes or some rutting or pushing of that nature, I'll just go over it as slow as you can.
Well, a dangerous widespread heat dome caused multiple roads to buckle across several states. A road buckle occurs when air temperatures increase and the gaps in the pavement aren't big enough to handle extreme heat expansion. In Iowa, a road buckled along West 1st Street in front of Northwest Elementary. The buckling prompted city crews to close one lane for eastbound traffic throughout the weekend. A sheriff in South Dakota also released several photos of bad buckles on the interstate there. As extreme heat continues across the region, even places designed to help us cool off, like a local water park, took extra steps to protect their guests this week. We went to DeKalb County, where lifeguards are on high alert, not just watching the water, but helping beat the heat in other ways, too. The Browns Mill Aquatic Center was one of the busiest spots in Metro Atlanta last week. With the heat index soaring, staff were working hard to keep families safe, especially the little ones. Even at a water park, the heat can sneak up on you. Here's what you can do to stay safe. Hydrate often. Water, frozen fruit, and even ice pops, they help. Wear water shoes or sandals. While surfaces can burn those bare feet very fast, take cooling breaks in the shade or indoors when possible.
When we see like them running and because the floor is hot, we usually spray the ground with the hose and the water and stuff like that. We also have water for kids if they're under the stress and stuff like that, because it is a heat index out here. This is the hottest day. So hey, we got to be on P's and Q's and stuff like that. We encourage them just getting in the water, you know what I'm saying, cool down their bodies.
Cool down their bodies for sure. Well, there are new calls for change after a North Texas postal worker died, possibly related to working in the summer heat. Candace Sweat reports from Dallas.
The president of Dallas's Concerned Letter Carriers tells us stories are pouring in about how dedicated Jacob Taylor was to his job. And while the incident and cause of death are still under investigation, she says this is a wake-up call to the obstacles they face daily.
It happened Saturday afternoon on Medical District Drive in Dallas. According to a social media post made by Kamitra Lewis with Concerned Letter Carriers of Dallas, 51-year-old Jacob Taylor was seen gathering mail from his truck when he collapsed. Dallas Fire Rescue confirmed to NBC5 they responded to a call about an unconscious person in the area. Around the same time, witnesses claimed to see Taylor. The fire department says reports indicate CPR was performed on the patient, but he was pronounced dead at the hospital. At the Dallas branch for the National Association of Letter Carriers, Lewis tells us this incident feels eerily familiar. This comes almost on the same day 2 years ago that mail carrier Eugene Gates collapsed and died while en route in Dallas during weather exceeding 100 degrees.
Deja vu all over again, and it's been very difficult. I don't know for sure if the cause of death was heat related, but what I do know, it was hot that day. It was very hot that day.
In a statement to NBC5, the U.S. Postal Service said this incident remains under investigation, and we do not have any comment at this time. Following Gates' death in 2023, OSHA proposed a $15,000 fine on the U.S. Postal Service, and in response to pressure from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, promised additional air-conditioned trucks. Lewis says she wants answers and, if necessary, accountability.
My steward praised him. He said he was one of the best guys that work in that office. The people don't see when they see the letter carrier with a smile on his face or a smile on her face out delivering the mail, but there are a lot of dangers.
During a hearing in Washington this week, lawmakers expressed frustration over unmet financial safety and delivery standards by the U.S. Postal Service. The drier weather allowed one teen to make the journey home 4 weeks since a tornado tore through a Locust Grove neighborhood, tossing him out of his bedroom, leveling his family's home. On Tuesday, that teen returned to the property for the first time since that terrifying afternoon. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn was there as Malachi walked through the rubble.
On Wednesday, in intense heat, Malachi Cheney walked down his driveway.
And I see the island from the kitchen.
The family's green kitchen island is one of the only things still standing, surrounded by debris the Cheneys used to call home.
His room would have been
right at the top.
At the top.
Yeah.
It would have been right at the top,
right
like
in the corner,
right here.
That's where he was on May 29th, the second floor, playing a video game when an EF2 tornado with 135-mile-per-hour winds tore through. It picked him up, tossed him into the air, into a field behind his home.
They said when they found you, you was laid on your back.
His dad, Trey Cheney, was also inside. He was trapped under walls but crawled out. A neighbor ran over and started searching for Malachi. Curtis Bryant was one of the neighbors who found him, describing to me that moment just hours after the tornado hit.
Kept constantly talking to him until the firefighters had got there to take him away.
Malachi doesn't remember much from that day or the weeks after.
Sorry, I don't remember the 2 weeks at Grady, but Shepherd, that's like family.
He spent 10 days in the ICU, turned 19 at Grady Hospital, then moved to the Shepherd Center, where he graduated last week. Now he's continuing daily therapy.
I surprised myself by getting better every day.
The sight of what's left still hits hard.
Kind of shocking and amazing seeing it like this. Really just made me thankful for living, honestly, by the grace of God.
And even after everything he's been through, he hasn't lost his sense of humor.
On the car, I did say, no, I'm not gonna say it. But I did say a curse word like, holy, yeah, you know what? But yeah, just like in shock seeing it like this.
Malachi says he's focused on getting stronger. He's hoping to remove his neck brace soon and return to Savannah State in the fall. This week's pop-up storms caused a lot of damage around the state of Georgia. Meteorologists from the National Weather Service were in Upson County on Thursday after storms snapped trees and knocked down power lines. The crews there confirmed a short-lived and weak tornado touchdown. 11 Live's Molly Oak takes us there for a look at the damage left behind.
Outside a home.
I have just sat out here today and watched the show.
On a front porch with a view.
They've cut up trees, they've dug up holes.
Early this morning.
Well, 1:15 we got a tornado warning on the phone.
By 5 a.m.
We came out on the porch and it was pitch dark. So you could just see the shadow of the roots there. So we saw that's probably the biggest, oldest tree we had. I mean, my mother-in-law just passed away not too long ago. And she would just be heartbroken to see these trees go, because this is where she grew up. So we looked out there and saw that giant root ball and said, this is going to be bad.
Bob Tilley says 10 trees fell on his property.
And they could have fell towards the house.
And thankfully, narrowly missing the house.
It could have been so much worse. I consider myself blessed that if this is all the problem I've got in the world, I'm in great shape.
Another day with a view and a thankful view point. Molly Oak, 11 Alive News.
Clayton County was also hit hard by last week's storms. More than 8,000 people were without power, with damage concentrated near South Lake Parkway, including a downed transformer and several trees. You're looking at video from our 11 Alive weather impact tracker on the ground there Friday morning. Georgia Power crews were on scene to restore power, and some county buildings reported delays and partial service. Some neighbors in southeast Atlanta are feeling very fortunate after recent storms. A large tree came crashing down in the front yard of one home on Burroughs Avenue, but thankfully no one was hurt. 11 Alive's Stefanich Haynock shows us the damage and how close the call really was.
A neighbor I spoke to says that they heard a loud boom just after midnight here on Burroughs Avenue in southeast Atlanta. And now you can see that crews are actually working to clean up that tree that caused a major power outage on this entire roadway. You can see they are now breaking down the tree. But earlier this morning, it was a different scene. We saw the large tree completely stretched across this road here, blocking residents from leaving their homes. That tree taking down a power line, even snapping a power pole in half. The neighbor I spoke to says he was in bed when he heard what he thinks was the cable box being struck by lightning. Atlanta police putting out caution tape this morning on both sides of the downed power lines. The homeowner telling me it was a very loud boom.
The tree fell right here. You can see how it fell. And when it fell right here, it pulled that line. It broke that pole right there. You can see that right there. It broke the pole right there. And that's when everything else came loose. Got real close to the car. Got a lot of debris that I got to get up over there.
This scene here, similar to a lot of other neighborhoods, left picking up the pieces following last night's storm. And hopefully everyone is getting their power restored sooner than later. I'm Stefanich Haynock reporting for you in southeast Atlanta, 11 Alive News.
And take a look at the floodwaters in Hall County. We've got this video from Gainesville showing drivers getting stranded on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We know this road flooded 2 days in a row. On Thursday, we had something very rare happen, a fireball. That's right, a fireball in the sky and on a home in Henry County. The American Meteor Society describing it as a bolide, a rare meteor that explodes in the sky and can create a sonic boom. Some caught it on camera, others just stared in shock. And some in Metro Atlanta felt the ground shake and the impact on a house. 11 Alive's Cody Alcorn with some of the first reports.
Oh my word. Did you see that?
The video's stunning. A flash of light racing across the afternoon sky. A security camera captured the moment in Columbia, South Carolina. This security footage caught the fireball from Greenwood, South Carolina. Catherine Farr was driving along I-85 in the Palmetto State when her dash cam caught it, but she still couldn't believe it.
I just saw like a bright flash. It definitely looked like something was on fire.
In Athens, Georgia, pastors David and Diane Lester were on their way to church when they saw it.
So we have a church conversation, and we just all of a sudden just saw it.
Yes.
Looked up, and we was.
And you know, by being spiritual minded, is this that day? Seeing that and knowing, you know, with a spiritual mindset.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is the last day.
Oh my God.
You know, with all that is going on.
Yes,
you know.
everything that's going on, and to be riding and look up and see something, no.
And get this, the fireball was even seen by skydivers 14,000 feet over Chester, South Carolina.
It was definitely a lot brighter in person than it was in the video. It definitely got my attention.
Brian Martin's a skydiving instructor at Skydive Carolina.
So if anybody's ever been lucky enough to catch a meteorite during the day on a skydive.
But this might be even more unreal. In McDonough, Georgia, a family's home was damaged by what emergency management believes could be a piece of the meteorite. Mike Hankey with the American Meteor Society spoke with meteorologist Melissa Nord about what happens when one of these fireballs makes impact.
They stop all their cosmic velocity at like 20,000 or 30,000 feet up. And by the time they hit your roof, they're going about the speed of a golf ball or maybe a little bit faster. You don't want to get hit by one. They can cause a lot of harm, damages. They'll go through multiple floors of a home oftentimes. But believe it or not, it is a blessing to have your home hit by a meteorite because it's a very rare thing to happen, as long as no one's hurt in the process.
Cody Alcorn, 11 Alive News.
As for the ground moving, the National Weather Service says that was from the sonic boom caused by the meteor. Most homeowners' insurance policies cover damage to your home or personal property caused by them, asteroids, and space junk. Also, a meteorite is also potentially valuable. People are still talking about the meteor sightings here in Metro Atlanta and beyond. This including a Georgia man who captured it on his dash cam while driving. Maggie Fitzgerald spoke with the driver and an astronomy professor for a closer look at what happened on Thursday.
I live out in the country, so at night I see shooting stars. So at night, it really doesn't shock me or anything.
It's a bird? It's a plane? Nope. It's a meteor. And for Josh Grant, it's something he wouldn't typically blink twice about. But seeing a fiery streak during the daytime, it caught him and hundreds of others a bit off guard.
Didn't know what it was. Based on the world today, you never know. So that's why I thought it was interesting, but maybe be a once-in-a-lifetime video if it was a meteorite during the day.
But a sighting like that isn't as rare as it may seem, according to Professor Matthew Marone. He teaches all things astronomy and physics at Mercer University.
Not unusual for these kind of things to happen. I wouldn't be panicked about it. I would be excited to go out there and actually see if I can find a piece of it. But I wouldn't be panicking about it.
According to emergency management crews, a piece of that meteor, about an inch long, was found in Henry County on Thursday. Marone has his own meteorite collection and explains when meteors come in very fast, the frictional heating can make them incredibly bright.
Any black is the fusion crust, where the outer part of the rock had been melted. And again, we saw this thing being very, very bright, right? So it's very hot and incandescent.
Pieces like this are often debris left behind from a comet. In this instance, Marone says, the Pons-Winnicott comet, which creates an annual meteor shower during orbit this time of year.
Well, here are the new images of the meteorite. You can see the quarter-sized object made it all the way to the foundation of that home in Henry County. We had our fair share of pop-up thunderstorms this week, and some of them ended up being severe with trees down, flooding, and even some hail. Take a look at this. A Friday night storm knocking down trees in DeKalb County. The worst of the damage was on North Shallowford Road and Longview Drive in Chamblee. A large tree blocked the road there for quite some time. Most people in the South were impacted by severe weather this week. Wednesday night was a scary one for one Florida woman. Wind howling, debris flying, a terrifying tornado bearing down on a Largo neighborhood. Today, Beth Russo talked to the woman who captured it all on her doorbell camera.
The damage that you're seeing to this home happened because a tornado lifted the entire thing up and then set it back down. The windows are shattered. You can see the roof is gone. There's furniture that you can see through the actual house. This all happened while the owner was sitting inside, and the whole incident was captured on this doorbell camera.
There was a lady in there. I guess when the house went up, it stayed up for a few seconds and then popped back down. The whole house come up in the air. And she said she rolled around a few times. And then she had debris on top of her when the house finally landed. But she managed to get herself out.
Seeing this kind of damage and destructions, neighbors say they are so relieved that the homeowner who was inside when this happened is safe, and they say they're even more grateful for the way that the community has come together to help with the cleanup. Back to you.
Travelers at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport were still dealing with the effects of severe weather Saturday from Friday night storm. According to FlightAware, hundreds of cancellations and delays prevented people from traveling out of the world's busiest airport. 11 Live's Keris Belger went to Hartsfield-Jackson International and spoke to travelers who had to make big changes.
Summer vacation plans on pause at Hartsfield-Jackson as thousands of travelers packed the airport Saturday, only to learn they're going nowhere fast.
We were on the plane, got on the plane, and taxied back, and then taxied back into the gate, and they made us get off the plane, deplane. And then when we got off, they told us the flight was completely canceled.
Danielle Brooks and Brittany Walton were headed to Montego Bay with their families on a Frontier flight. But after boarding, they were forced to deplane and lost a full day of their trip.
We were just confused, like, what now?
And they're not alone. According to FlightAware, 502 flights have been canceled and nearly 900 were delayed as of 8:30 Saturday, making the world's busiest airport the most disrupted airport in the U.S. All of it tied to Friday's severe storms. The airport's control tower evacuated and dozens of flights grounded.
Delta flights were canceled, we found out this morning, so we rebooked with Frontier, whose flights are now postponed or delayed.
Airlines like Delta say they're working to get schedules back on track, but with more storms in the forecast, the disruptions could continue into Sunday.
For the weather, we're safe, we're trying to maintain being happy, and hopefully we'll get home.
Well, the weather had impacts on other modes of transportation as well. Severe weather caused a train derailment in Peach County, Georgia, shutting down a major road. Norfolk Southern says 23 cars went off the tracks early Saturday. No one was hurt, and none of the cars carried hazardous materials. Flooding made the tracks unstable, and cleanup could take days. 1 week, 3 powerful forces, a blazing fireball, deadly tornadoes, and dangerous heat. It's all a reminder of nature's force and why staying informed matters the most. With your weather impact forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.